And a good Tuesday afternoon, everyone. Welcome to week 3 of the high school football season. We're here for our weekly Facebook Live at Reynoldsburg High School. I'm Dave Purpura, along with Jarrod, Ulrey, and our guest to begin the show. He's a familiar face around here, Raiders coach Buddy White. Always good to see you, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent. Raiders are 2-0 heading into a Friday night game at Marion Franklin. 2 games in which they've outscored their opponent 64-16. I covered your first game, the 23-9 win over Upper Arlington, and then you beat Licking Heights last week 41-7. What are some common themes that you've seen develop through these first couple wins here so far?
Well, a couple of things have been happening. I tell you what, the one thing that I haven't been talking to the team about is their effort. They have been giving us full effort. When I sit back and break down the film after the games, and I just watch how these guys are actually playing, they're playing hard. You know, I get on them sometimes about some silly things that they do or, execution problems, but we've never had no questions about the way that these kids are playing football. They're really playing hard.
Last week, Buddy, on Friday, in the morning of the game, you guys found out that one of your former players, Nigel Chapman, passed away from an auto accident. What are some things that maybe you've talked to your players about regarding his legacy and moving forward after that tough situation?
Well, as you know, Nigel was very special to this Reynoldsburg community. I'm not sure there's anybody around here that didn't know Nigel. Just the way that he carried himself. One of the things that the team wanted to do is they wanted to dedicate the season to Nigel, and I said, well, you got to be careful about that, because when you talk about dedicating your season, you got to lead with your heart. You got to change the way that you play. You got to change the way that you prepare. I said there's a whole lot to just saying that we're going to dedicate the season. And so I told the guys to think about it, and they came back and said, Coach, we're going for it. And if that's going to motivate our kids to be the best that they can be, then definitely I'm behind it 100%.
And I'm sure there were some guys who were in the program, who were around and remember him personally. Is
sure.
that kind of a thing? I mean, it obviously hits you when this happens, but I'm sure there were some guys who knew him personally.
Oh, there definitely is. He's got a core group of guys these were his aces. These guys are really close, because when I first heard about it, I went on the internet, and there was nothing about his name or anything. So I called one of our graduate assistant coaches, Marty Morris, who played with Nigel. I said, Marty, say it ain't so. And he said, yeah, it's so. And he started breaking down. I started breaking down, and he said to him, I don't know if you remember Cam Young and Amos passed away, and Darius Dunning. I know that those 4 guys are as thick as thieves, and he said that they were headed to the hospital at that time, and it's pretty emotional time around here, because so many people knew Nigel, and I always said that he was the life of the party. When he walked in a room, everybody knew he was there, and everybody loved him to death. And it's the world's a little bit different now that Nigel's not in it. I can tell you that.
Obviously, you guys really responded well last Friday after going through such a tough situation. Sure. And you're getting ready to play Marion Franklin this week. With some of your thoughts, what do you think might be some of the keys to this matchup coming up?
Well, the main thing is as I said before, we got to focus on ourselves and the way that we're playing football. And, we're still doing some things that we got to clean up on, and we're definitely addressing that, because we want to be as good as we can possibly be. We know that this is a long season, and especially once we get into OCC play, we had better be playing at a very high level of intensity, because those teams in the OCC, they're not scared of Reynoldsburg. I mean, they look us eyeball to eyeball. They're just as big, just as fast, and also they're all very well coached teams. But I tell you what, one of the things I am so pleasantly surprised about has been our defense. These guys have been flying around. I got to give all the credit in the world to our defense coordinator, David Bynum, who's pretty well known around here, and him and his staff, they do a great job of preparing the kids, and you can see it on Friday nights.
All right, Coach, we know it's a film time for you.
Yes,
but
it is.
Thank you for making time for us, buddy.
Thank you so much.
All righty.
All right,
you guys
Coach
take care.
Buddy White joining us here on the program, and this is a Reynoldsburg team that's looking to go to 3-0, and we were talking briefly before we went on the air. Marion Franklin this Friday, Central Crossing next Friday, and boy, if this continues, they've got a doozy of a Week 5 game as well against Western South.
Should be fine. looking good on paper right now for Week 5.
Yeah, we're allowed to look ahead a little bit.
We are. They can't. We can't. As far as this matchup coming up, Marion Franklin is a team that really was not able to hang with Reynoldsburg last year. I'm not sure how much more competitive this game will be. I do think that Marion Franklin is a well-coached program. They've got, their starters, their ones, are all very good. They got a really good quarterback, Jeremiah Tucker. He's really stepped in, he's looked really good. Talon James, talented running back for him. Their problem is depth, so it's going to come down to how are they going to be able to handle all of the numerous athletes Reynoldsburg has when it comes to, maybe a few series into the game when Reynoldsburg is able to substitute, because Reynoldsburg probably has 7, 8 wide receivers that they can rotate in.
Yeah.
That would, and there's not even a real drop off. After James Dean, Sean Strickland, Micah Coleman, there's so many of them. And, how are they going to be able to handle that athleticism?
Who are being looked at by a couple different quarterbacks.
Several.
And not to eavesdrop, I thought I heard you talking to Buddy maybe about some of the development of his quarterbacks, and he's got 2 that he can rely on, with Michael Watley and Dijon Jennings.
I mean, I guess the old cliche is that if you've got 2 quarterbacks you rotate in, you don't really have a quarterback. In this situation, it's really not true, because, Michael Watley he's in his 3rd year as a starter. He's a very solid quarterback. Dijon Jennings is a sophomore who is basically kind of forced his way in and said, I deserve some playing time here. I'm really good. And last week he was 9 for 9 passing. Okay. So he's going to be a player to watch the next couple of years. I'm really excited to see his development and just see how much better he can keep progressing. He's only a sophomore.
So he's got a while left in this program. Raiders and Red Devils on Friday on the south side of Columbus. Couple other games to talk about, several other games to talk about. I guess we can go to the other side of the metro. Dublin Jerome is at 2-0, and they're going to take on 2-0 Dublin Kaufman. This is the 4th time that they've met overall in the series. Kaufman has won all of the previous 3 meetings. This is a chance for Jerome to get a real big victory for its program, and they've looked pretty good the first couple weeks. They've been. One thing that jumped out to me is they've been very consistent in their running game. 234 the first week, 235 the second week, including that 235 led by Adam Booth against what we think is going to be a pretty good DeSales team.
Yeah, should be. They've got a multi-threat quarterback out there, Ryan Miller. I guess the thing that's exciting about this is that you've got a couple teams that are 2-0, so it's not just a rivalry matchup at Dublin. There's a lot of interest in this.
It's worthwhile. Yeah.
There's only 5 Central Ohio teams that are in Region 2. And when you click on Joe Itel, I believe it says Dublin Jerome 1, Dublin Kaufman 2. So, that's pretty cool.
It's never too early to look at those ratings. And this is a Kaufman team that's coming off an impressive win over Gahanna, 45-20, and they still don't have Mike Drennan.
He hasn't played yet.
Last week,
he hasn't played yet. Actually, I talked to an opposing coach, and he said that Drennan had been warming up last week, but they chose just not to play him. I think maybe he's just kind of getting his feet back and kind of getting back in shape maybe a little bit after having some inactivity toward the end of the preseason with this injury that he's dealing with. But they've been just fine without him. Musa Diallo's really good. Jameel Williamson, an exceptional track runner, and he's made some big plays for them on offense too.
A little to the south of that, another crosstown rivalry. This is 2-0 Davidson at 0-2 Hilliard-Bradley. Davidson coming off a 30-14 win over Darby on Friday. Bradley played a close game with Orange and fell 17-14. This is a series that's tied all-time at 2. Bradley won it last year. What stands out to you about this? And Davidson posting another impressive victory over a like-minded Darby team, and now they get to face that spread-out Bradley team that's still trying to find itself.
I don't think anybody would have thought heading into this matchup that Bradley would be 0-2. And that's not to say that they're not a good team. I think they very possibly could still be.
Well, they played a very good Springfield team.
Yeah, they
in
played
week
a
1.
very good Springfield team, and Orange they've had a solid program the last few years. So can they find some offensive rhythm? They've still only scored 21 points this year on the season. And Davidson never makes that easy for anybody.
Nope.
Because they don't give up points.
And they don't give up the ball very much.
They don't give up the ball much. They hold the ball a lot. They run the ball well, as we've always talked about. And they're extremely well coached.
As always. And talking about another well-coached team, the Hartley Hawks. These are 2 teams that you know well. They are playing Gahanna on Friday. That's going to be at Hartley. First time they've met in, 45 years?
Well, they were. I exchanged some emails with Coach Birchfield and then another kind of historian for them, and they were saying that they've played 6 times. Gahanna holds a 4-2 all-time lead, but they haven't met since. They couldn't find when the last meeting was, but it was probably 1974.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus. Yeah,
45 years ago. That's pretty cool.
You were at that game.
That's right.
Correct?
I was 3 years old.
Is what a 3-year-old. Yeah. I wasn't quite thought of yet the last time. And I think this is an interesting one. I mean, Hartley's scheduling up. They've never been afraid to schedule tough competition. You got to think some of these guys probably know each other. I mean, Gahanna's somewhat in Hartley's attendance territory, so there's probably that neighborhood rivalry to it. You've got a Hartley team that's coming off a big win over Reynoldsburg last week, 44-6. Gahanna's 0-2, but the teams that they've lost to are no slouches, Cincinnati Elder, and then we mentioned Kaufman a moment ago.
This is a huge game for Gahanna in terms of just getting better. Like, if they can continue to progress, I mean, there's still time for them to salvage their season. Last year they also started off 0-2 and eventually made the playoffs. So how they respond this week is going to be huge.
And we shall see. I mean, I'm intrigued to see that one myself, at least to hear how it turns out. Okay.
So, should be, I'm really looking forward to it.
And a game I believe I will be attending is yet another one of those neighborhood rivalries. Central Crossing is at 1-1. They're looking for their 4th victory in a row over Grove City, which is 0-2. They've lost 17 games in a row, dating back to the 2017 season.
This is like the Super Bowl for Grove City.
It's a big deal. It really is. It doesn't matter what their records are. And yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal for both teams. I mean, for many years, they didn't play each other. For the first 14 years that Central Crossing was around, they didn't play each other. I guess it would be, 14 seasons, I think. And this is a Central Crossing team. They're in their 3rd year under Trevor White. They're coming off a victory that might not have been the prettiest over Beechcroft. I think they had 203 yards, but they took advantage of 4 turnovers to win that game 10-0. And then Grove City bumped into a very good Westerville Central team last week and lost 56-7. Them and Davidson to start.
Kind of tough. Yeah, it's a pretty tough way to start.
Yeah.
And they're in the OCC Ohio, where in a few weeks they're going to be going against Pickerington Central, Reynoldsburg.
Yep.
Lots and lots of good teams. So. This is a game that Grove City, I'm sure, has circled on. I mean, I know that they're trying to win every game, obviously, but they're probably thinking, this is a game that we've really got to take a big step forward in. This is a game that we can hang with. We've got a chance in this game.
Well, in that they did hang around for a while last year. I mean, but Central Crossing had some big special teams plays and really was able to open up the gap in the second half. And that was a Thursday night television game last year, so everybody was a little extra fired up. Friday night this year. Reedy and St. Charles kind of scream CCL, even though it's not a CCL game. I mean, this is a 1-1 Silver Knights team that's coming off a loss to a really, really good West Jefferson team. They had a young man named Gabe Jones rush for a program record, 312 yards. And this is a St. Charles team that's trying to go 3-0 for the first time in almost a decade.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2-0 for the first time since 2010. Reedy... They are. I mean, they're in this situation right now where they're trying to progress as a program, and with the way that some of the changes they've made, where they're going to an auxiliary schedule in the MSL Ohio, they're going on a rotational basis with the rest of the teams in CCL. So they're playing St. Charles this year. I believe they played them 2 years in a row, and then they'll play one of the other teams, and then one of the other teams. So this is. But they haven't played since 2001. Okay. So. Yeah, pretty interesting. And these kids, even though they're kind of far away in proximity, they actually know a lot. A lot of the kids know each other because
that's how it always seems.
Diocese. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how it always seems. It doesn't matter what sport it is. There's that special kind of kinship or rivalry, whatever you want to call it, when any of these CCL schools get together.
I mean, they're rivals, but it's not like they're sitting around hating each other. I don't think. It's.
Well, we know we've seen those kind of rivalries.
We've seen some of those kind of rivalries.
And we'll talk about them later in the year, I am sure. Another game we had mentioned, Beechcroft, just a moment ago. They are 1-1, and they'll take on a 2-0 Walnut Ridge team coming up. You saw them on Thursday night against Watkins Memorial. That's the only non-city team that Walnut Ridge is going to play all year.
Right.
But they're going back home to host the Cougars. They're coming off a 148-yard total effort against Central Crossing. Beechcroft is. What do you see in this one?
Walnut Ridge is a very, very good team. They're very sharp. They've got when they were able to get Keon Magwood out into some space last week and let him have some opportunities. There's not many better athletes than him around Central Ohio this year. And
very good.
That's going to be kind of the puzzle that Beechcroft is going to have to kind of figure out. How can we keep the ball from him? How can we keep him from making some plays and busting them? Whether it's, he did a fake punt and threw a touchdown. So
last week.
Yeah, he can kind of do a little bit of everything. And Beechcroft is a team that's has I believe it's its fourth coach in 4 seasons. So
That's right.
They're trying to come up with some continuity and still trying to figure out who they are right now.
Another 2-0 team is Olentangy Orange, who we also mentioned earlier. They're going to take on a Pickerington North team that's still trying to find itself after 2 weeks, and they probably need to start figuring this out because their next 4 games are against teams that are at this moment 2-0, and obviously their league schedule isn't going to get any better. I mean, this is a North team. Obviously, this would be a huge week. Any week would be a huge week to get a win, but boy, they'd really like to do it against the 2-0 team in Orange.
Yeah, Pickerington North on their schedule, they have 8 teams on 8 of their 10 teams made the playoffs last year, and one of the teams that didn't make it was Lancaster, which
is still pretty
shared
good.
the league title last year.
Yeah.
So
with these guys,
it's an extremely tough schedule with a new quarterback that they didn't really give the job to until right before the season started, and they've got some new guys on defense, and so far they've given up a lot of yards. So Orange hasn't been scoring a ton of points. So yeah, it's kind of let's see what happens. Should be good.
All right, and as you can hear, they're kind of getting excited for practice to start here at Reynoldsburg. A couple other games we want to hit before we get out of here. Big rival of these Raiders is Pickerington Central. They are finally home this week. They're going to get a Naperville Central team from suburban Chicago that has a Minnesota committed quarterback.
That's right.
Sam Jackson, I believe is his name. I mean, he was a receiver last year, went back to QB. He's played very well for the Redhawks, but finally Pickerington Central gets a home game now.
Naperville Central.
We'll speak up.
Naperville Central is 0-2, but the teams they've lost to are very good. They were 7-4 last year, and I guess the thing that's exciting for Pickerington Central about this is that it's their first game on their they have like some new Bermuda grass that they were put on their stadium, so it's an exciting moment for them.
I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm going over to soccer there later tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing this, how it fares when they play Pickerington North. A few other games to touch on. This one's kind of become an annual battle with Cleveland, Glenville, and Olentangy Liberty. You cover Liberty. This is a Patriots team that, boy, they get the most out of all their talent, and they're tested yet again by the Tire Blooders this week.
Liberty, Glenville's going to have a lot of athletes. Coach Steve Hale told me the other day, he said, this team looks the same as they do every year, which I guess you're gonna have that when you've had the same coach for 20-some years, and I mean they're well known for getting a lot of the great athletes in Cleveland, and it's a good matchup.
Who is that guy that coaches them? We've never heard of him. Mr. Ginn?
Yeah,
Mr. Ginn Sr. Winton Woods hosting Upper Arlington. Winton Woods, we've talked about Mayan Williams on this show before. He passed 5,000 yards for his career rushing in their win last week over West Claremont. They're going to get an Upper Arlington team that's coming off their first win of the year. UA knows they kind of get their hands full, not only with Williams, but with some other Division I guys who are going to Iowa State and Toledo.
That's right. And one other game we wanted to mention was Derby at Lancaster. Lancaster had their Week 2 game canceled last week. I believe it was against some Canadian team. I don't know the circumstances behind that, but this will be a good game for Derby. And they're coming off the Davidson loss last week, so how do they respond this week? We're going to learn.
Yep, and they go down to an always good atmosphere in Fulton Field down in Lancaster. We are going to get out of here. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday afternoon at 4. We'll let you know the site later on in the week. We'll keep you up to date. For Jarrod Ulrey and for Coach Buddy White, I'm Dave Purpura. So long, everybody.